Hi there, and welcome back to the channel. Um, I have a great deck for you today. It's an oracle deck, it's not a tarot deck, it's an oracle deck, and it's been a while since I posted a video the last time. It's actually kind of due to, well, not due to, it's connected to what I'm going to show you today. Because this deck, where other decks kind of have a very specific spiritual approach, or at least other dimensional approach, this of course has the same thing, but also has a very more, not very more, that's wrong grammar. It has a more practical approach to it. I'm even going to say that it's kind of spiritual, and not spiritual, kind of therapeutic, that's the word. Because you can actually, if you're in a process like I am, and if you're on a spiritual journey, then chances are that you are in a process the way that I am, which is kind of digging deep, looking into shadow worky kind of things. This deck is actually quite helpful. It is the Inner Child Oracle deck, and it's See, this is the danger about making videos like this, because sometimes you're gonna end up looking at a name and wonder, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I'm gonna try. Amanda Lynn, I'm gonna go with Aisling, but it may be Ailing or something like that, depending on whether or not the S is mute and how the A and I is pronounced together. But don't worry if I'm going to put every link relevant. I'm going to put that down in the description box below, so you're not going to miss anything just because I suck at pronouncing names. So don't worry. This deck, um, you're going to see it in a minute. I'm going to go through each and every card, and I put them in order. I've been using it quite a lot, but I've been putting them in order so you see it in, as it's, if it were you that unpacked the deck. As you will notice, they are quite beautiful. The artwork is very soulful and very much, it's kind of opening up, so you obviously always have the text, but you actually, if you prefer to connect intuitively with each card, then the imagery is very much open to that. So yeah, I'm just gonna show you, and then I can always talk more as we go through each card. So this is the Inner Child Oracle deck by Amanda Lynn. We're gonna go with that. And this is how the box itself looks like. Pretty much standard box. Remember, any, just service announcement here, any card deck that has sort of like this QR code on it, that asks you to download the PDF, there's a pretty good chance that that is an oracle deck or a tarot deck that is what's it called, counterfeit. So that is not the original deck, and it's probably stolen rights from the actual owner of copyright. But this is how they usually come like, and pretty much standard deck. Look at this. Your ultimate healing comes from within. Indeed it does. I'm going to put this over here, and we have a guidebook that guides you through every single card, and then we have the cards themselves. Look. Let's just put this over here. So this is the back side of the cards with pretty little details on it. Um, and I feel like the moon is actually quite... Or maybe it's just the cards that I've been pulling so far, but I feel like the moon is quite a regular guest in this deck. But we'll see once we go through them from one end to the other. As said, this is an inner child oracle deck that is working on kind of a more practical level than what we're used to, or at least what I'm used to in the decks that I've purchased so far. It is a very practical deck that look at that unicorn with butterfly wings. Isn't it amazing, the artwork in it? I think they're so beautiful. Where was I? Yeah, it's a little bit more practical than at least what I'm used to in the decks that I've purchased. And I kind of like it that way. Yeah, they are really beautiful. And as you can see, every single image has a depth to it that, I mean, if you just want to, use the card intuitively, of course, there's a little bit of text to guide you, but if you want to use the imagery intuitively, it is definitely open to lots of interpretations as to where your intuition will guide you. It is, she writes in the guidebook that the deck is kind of divided in 6 sections as part of, the work of doing the inner work on a spiritual journey. It is an awareness of the inner child, which is kind of, like a time to remember here. And then there's a part about acceptance. Then there's a part about the inner work, the actual doing the inner work. And then there's, a part about playfulness, because the inner child is also about being playful. It's about being allowed to be a child. And I think anyone who's tried to dive into their spiritual journey will probably find one or more things from their childhood that's actually kind of traumatic, and has kind of locked their inner child in a certain space of time. And at that point, that child forgot how to play. Or at least for some people, it is like that. So this deck also dives into the playfulness. And of course, it dives into, well, speaking of this card, about self-care, about being able to take care of yourself as an adult. As an adult, actually being a good parent to your own inner child. So this deck is definitely, I mean, if you are interested in shadow work, if you're interested in doing the inner work and not just in it for, the spiritual mainstream kind of thing, but if you actually want to do the work, then this is a really, really great place to start. Wow. I don't know if the camera picks this one up. It doesn't really. But this card, I mean, just color-wise, it's absolutely magical. Almost surreal. So yeah, as you can see, there are different, I don't know if I haven't really mentioned the titles, because I kind of want something to be left for you if you choose to buy this deck. But I do feel like there's really so much to gain from these cards. I mean, you don't even have to be on a spiritual journey per se. I mean, they can easily be worked with, as, strictly therapeutic, um, you know the way. Trust your intuition on this journey. So this is the deck in and on its own, but I actually want to show you what I mean when I say that it's a little bit more practical. Um, and I'm gonna actually show you something a little bit more personal with this one, because a little fun story, and anyone who's had, been pulling cards for themselves, you will probably know what this feeling feels like. But I pulled two cards at a given time, and I think it was the day after or the day after that I kind of decided, well, I'm gonna put them in and I'm gonna draw a new card, and just dealing with dealing the cards, I kind of told the universe, okay, if one of these cards or both cards, if I'm still supposed to work with them, then I guess I'm going to see them again. I'm going to pull them again. So I pulled one card, and it kind of, when you shuffle it, something kind of really sticks out. So I pulled that one out, and it was actually one of the same cards. I'm going to show you this one. So I pulled this card, which said, "Choose yourself today. Do not deny your importance." What is, I think it's very common for anyone who's had trauma in their luggage, so to speak, or the closet, or whatever metaphor you want to use for it. It is not being able to kind of prioritize yourself. Maybe you end up pleasing other people. I know I have. And this card is actually one of those cards reminding yourself that it's actually okay to choose yourself. It is part acceptance, as I was talking about before, but it's also, the self care. Let's dive into the practical part of it, because when you open it, I mean, for one, you can look at the imagery, but when you open the book and follow number 8, I'm just going to see if I can show you here. I'm going to do something that I really don't like doing to books, but it's going to be easier for you to see. We have kind of, a standard is not really the right word, but kind of an introduction to the card, which says, "Our inner child has always been sensitive to to a promise broken, a desire disregarded, or a hope lost. It is paramount that we show our inner child, and by default our present selves, that they are important to us through our actions." And then comes the exercise, and this is where it gets practical. Ask yourself what it looks like for your inner child to be important to you today. This week, this month, and this year. Write down your answers on a piece of paper. Some of these answers might be overwhelming or seem unattainable, and that's okay. Look at your answers and make a list of ways you can show yourself that you are important every single day. Try to distill your weekly, monthly, and yearly answers into 10 or 15-minute daily tasks. For example, if your yearly answer is to write a book, then a daily task could be to write 200 words each day. Once you have your list, write each task down on a small piece of paper, folding each one and placing it into a bowl or a similar container. Pick one item each day to do for yourself. Make sure to practice celebrating yourself after each task has been completed. Um, and then there's a responsive journaling prompt. I'm not disciplined enough right now in this moment of time to actually do journaling. But if you are one that does a lot of journaling and in as a way of doing your inner work or shadow work, then there are also questions here that can actually kind of inspire you in what you could sort of investigate within yourself. Are there aspects of yourself that you feel might not be worthy of praise or accomplishments that you feel are not good enough? If so, give yourself praise, no matter how insignificant your accomplishments may seem to you. When you give yourself praise, do so with enthusiasm of a proud parent when presented with a masterpiece from a toddler. Um, Again, I think at least the majority of us know that feeling of I'm not going to show that because it's not good enough, um, or even when somebody says thank you to us and we're not really comfortable in accepting that thank you because we don't really feel like we did anything worth the thank. So there's something to think about here, but I want to show you this one because I did this one. I'm going to show you. This is my jar. It is, what was in this one? I think it was a candle. Um, so I actually did a lot of notes. I'm not going to show you because they're private. But I also, I am a druid and a druid witch, so I put some things in here to kind of help with the work. Oh, I'm gonna have to pull this one out. There it was. Now, on if you follow me on Instagram, you may recognize this one because this is, and it's barely visible right now, but this is the stone I found with the suelo on it. And the funny thing is, as I've been warming it in my hands, it's kind of gotten more invisible. Yeah, you can see it a little bit. But anyway, it's on Instagram, my Instagram account. If you want to see it, it's somewhere down the feed, depending on when you see this. Because if you see this about half year from when I post this, then it's gonna be way down. But it was a stone that I found at a time where I had a bit of a heavy head and a heavy heart, and I just I took it home because it was a good reminder that everything's gonna be okay. If you know what Suelo means, it's light. It's transcending the darkness and walking into the light, not in any fatal kind of way, but more like um, inner work kind of way, a spiritual kind of way. So I took it home and I didn't really know what to do with it because well, you can't see here, but I have a home that's more or less filled with rocks and sticks and whatever I find when I'm out for a walk. But then this one came out for the second time, and as I made this jar here, it was just, of course, it has to go in here. So what I do with this, I pull a note each day, and that is kind of how I have chosen to connect with my inner child and do my, or at least that part of my inner work. So that's an example of how practical it can actually be when you work with these cards. And obviously, you can use them as any other oracle deck. If you choose to just do a spread of different decks and you want to use this one, of course you can do that. You don't have to do the exercise in the book. But if you want to work a little bit more therapeutically with it, a little more shadowy kind of thing, then the options are there, and you have journaling prompts and questions and the activities that can kind of furthermore inspire that path. So yeah, that's it for now. I mean, this is, if you're looking for an oracle deck that's a little bit more practical in its approach, that could help you in a gentle and very loving kind of way in your shadow work, then I would definitely suggest checking this oracle deck out. It's beautiful, it's down to earth, it's, very gentle in its approach. So yeah, those were the words for today. Okay, so I know I said that those were the words, but uh, not quite, because I do have a little extra thing, and that is we're heading into a week. As I'm recording this, we're heading into a week with a new moon, which is gonna fall on the night between Monday and Tuesday for my part. Um, but also at the end of the week, we're gonna have Saturn opposing the Sun. That is going to be wild. It's going to be wild because the Sun, with all its drive, its passion, its light, enlightenment, any tarot users will know, the Sun card and how it kind of brings light to a new dawn. Then we're going to have Saturn, which is kind of double-sided. Personally, I love Saturn. There's a lot of people that kind of fear it because it comes with all these restrictions and challenges, and yeah, it does. It's kind of, I'm not gonna say a tower planet because I kind of feel Pluto for me is the tower planet, but it's close. Maybe no, I'm not gonna say the Death card. Maybe we're into some of those swords cards, but still not quite. The point is that Saturn has this kind of double-sided because it used to be the planet that ruled Aquarius, which means it was and still is kind of connected to the air as an element. We have the sun, which is fire, and air. You know what happens when air meets fire? The interesting part of this is, as I said, it's double-sided because right now we tend to, in modern day, we tend to connect Saturn more to Capricorn, which is an earth sign. So earth and fire kind of, it kind of dims the fire. So it's kind of this struggle that goes on. So, and I mean, it can kind of go either way. Either you're just going to get this fire diminished and you're going to feel like you're stuck and you can't really get anywhere. Or it can blow up in your face if you don't hold the reins to it, if you don't control the air. So that is kind of filled with all these, I want to say, opposing energies, and they kind of are because it's opposite the sun. But for me, that is a very, very interesting time, especially due to what else happens when we have Pluto that goes back into Capricorn. Um, Capricorn that is connected to Saturn. Um, and I think it stays there until the beginning of November. I mean, Pluto stays in Capricorn until the beginning of November, when it finally goes into Aquarius for the very last time, and it's going to stay there. If I remember correctly, it's going to stay there until somewhere in the 40s. So there's a lot of things going on. Those are just some of the majors, and then we have some of the minor planets. We have Mercury that just went back into direct, which is a shift that can be kind of turbulent. We have a lot of things going on, but for me, because Saturn is one of my favorite planets, then Saturn opposing the Sun is particularly Interesting. I also find it interesting because the Sun is kind of, the identity. It's kind of where we start. And Saturn is kind of this karmic planet, and where it sits in our chart, in our birth chart, kind of resembles, or not resembles. That's the wrong word. Um, it kind of shows you where your karmic lessons are. I'm going to be talking a little bit more into that in my next video, because I'm actually going to do a pick a card reading that revolves around Saturn opposing the Sun, and how, depending on which card you pick, how you can actually navigate through it. Either that, or what you're supposed to be aware of. I haven't quite settled on the exact intent right now, and I have a feeling that I'm just gonna wing it. I'm just gonna let it flow, and then what shows is what shows. So I'm gonna be doing that, and I'm gonna be doing that on, I think it's gonna be Tuesday or it's gonna be Monday. Kind of depends on, this is the Nordic countries, so I mean today we have a good light, and we might not have a good light on Monday or on Tuesday, but we're gonna work with whatever we have. The point is, long story short, I'm sorry. The point is that I'm going to be doing a video very soon, a pick a card reading that revolves around the Saturn opposing the Sun um, aspect. Kind of to, yeah, give you a little helping hand in what's gonna transpire up in the universe. I think those were the words. And I actually think I mean it now. I hope I'm going to see you in the next video, where I'm going to be talking about the Saturn opposing the Sun. And even if I'm not, I just want to say thank you for being here, for watching, and for listening to all my words and accent and whatnot. And I hope that you got inspired by the Inner Child Oracle, and I hope to see you in the next video. This is a small channel, so do your thing. If this were helpful in any kind of way, do your thing. Follow, like, subscribe. All of that is very small gestures that has a very, very big meaning and an impact for us small creators. So any help in that regard is, I'm going to be deeply grateful for that. So all that's left to say is, this is Sunday, the sun is up, so I'm going to wish you a very happy weekend wherever you are. And if it's not weekend by the time you watch this, then I'm just going to wish you a very happy day. And take very great care of yourself. Bye.